Somewhere in Russia, a group of prisoners is being transported to the state prison far away from human settlement. The convoy makes a stop at a gas station, and they are given 5 minutes to take care of their needs. Among the prisoners is a young man with a skull tattoo on his neck called Kraven. Upon arrival at the prison, each prisoner is assigned a cell and given a few basic items. Kraven is paired with a guy who tells him that he hates having cellmates, and the last guy who bunked with him didn't last a month. Kraven replies that he'll only be there for 3 days. One day while working out, a couple of thugs try to kick him out of the gym, so he warns them to leave if they don't want any trouble. The thugs attacked him, so he beat them up. The guards intervene, arresting him and dragging him to the prison boss, a notorious mob boss who continues running his criminal empire from prison. He asks if Kraven knows who he is, and he replies that he knows him as the leader of the Kirov crime syndicate. Kraven introduces himself as the hunter of men like him. He starts attacking them, killing everyone in the room. After completing his mission, he decides to escape the prison. Thanks to his superhuman abilities, the feat is almost effortless. He breaks through barriers, dodges bullets, and scales the highest walls of the penitentiary. Once outside, Kraven vanishes into an icy storm where a wolf attempts to attack him. However, using his powers, he calms the animal, ordering it to back off. Kraven boards a plane, waiting for him in the storm, and flies away. The movie takes us back 16 years earlier. Kraven and his younger brother, Dmitri, are in a boarding school in the United States. Their teacher calls them over and informs them that their father is coming to pick them up. Their father's limousine arrives, and as they climb in, their father, Nikolai, explains that their mother had passed away. Dmitri asks if their father had come to take them to her funeral, but Nikolai coldly replies that people like her didn't deserve a burial. Such honors had to be earned. We cut to Tanzania. A young girl called Calypso, with a gift for reading tarot cards, was in deep conversation with her grandmother. The grandmother asked Calypso to draw 3 cards that would define her destiny. The first card revealed was the High Priestess, representing the subject. Next came the Tower, foretelling a catastrophic event. Finally, the Strength card appeared. The grandmother gave her a potion that granted extraordinary abilities to anyone who consumed it. She then instructed her to use it when the time comes. Not far away, Nikolai was hunting a gazelle with his 2 sons. Alexei approached Nikolai, asking to become partners, but Nikolai scoffed at the idea. While they were out searching for the lion, Dmitri silently hoped they'd find it just so his father would finally leave them alone. That's when the Tsar appeared. At first, Kraven wanted to attack it, but as he locked eyes with the creature, he realized it wasn't his enemy. Nikolai comes to the scene and fires his gun at the Tsar, provoking the lion into charging at Kraven. Kraven urged Dmitri to run for safety while the lion dragged him away. Meanwhile, Calypso, who was with her parents, caught sight of the lion. The Tsar leaves Kraven to her, and to save him, she gave him her grandmother's magical potion. Before parting ways, Calypso handed him one of her tarot cards. After that, Kraven was taken to the nearest hospital. At the hospital, Kraven succumbed to his injuries, but 3 minutes later, he came back to life. Dmitri and Nikolai soon arrived at the hospital. Instead of congratulating him, Nikolai reprimanded him for failing to kill the lion. Despite the ordeal, Nikolai decided to take Kraven back with him. Once in his room, Kraven found the last letter his mother had ever written to him. In it, she apologized for leaving him. When Kraven joined his father said he had something to show him. In another room, Nikolai revealed that he had killed the Tsar and kept it as a trophy. Furious, Kraven lashed out, saying the lion should have killed him instead. He then decided to flee. Before leaving, Kraven grabbed some money, his passport, the tarot card, and tucked inside the shirt he had worn that day, Calypso's potion bottle. As he attempted to escape, he accidentally fell from a great height, yet miraculously, he wasn't hurt. When Kraven reached a port, he approached the captain and asked to be taken to Russia. The captain, realizing Kraven was running away from home, decided to help him out. Wandering through western Russia, Kraven heard the distant howls of a jackal pack, but instead of attacking him, the animals avoided him, with one even stepping in to protect him. Later, Kraven stumbled upon his mother's cabin, now in a dilapidated state. With nowhere to sleep, he chose to rest under a tree. At dawn, Kraven crafted a spear and set out to hunt a deer. That's when he first found out his newfound superhuman abilities. However, his focus was broken when he heard the distant voices of hunters who had just killed the local jackals. They hadn't even taken the meat, only the horns. Kraven approached the scene, and the hunters warned him to leave, threatening consequences if he didn't. Despite their warning, Kraven stood his ground and swiftly eliminated them. The movie then cuts to the present day, and Kraven is now a grown man. While fishing one day, he received a message from his brother. Dmitri reminded him that his birthday was coming up soon and hoped they could see each other again. Later, as Kraven tried to rest, the sound of a gunshot jolted him awake. He confronted a group of hunters and warned them that if they left now and stopped hunting, he'd let them live. The hunters, thinking he was insane, attacked him. Sergei swiftly took down several of them, and the survivors fled. When their leader returned to report to his boss and apologized for the delay, Kraven has already taken down the boss and occupies the office. Kraven then shoots him with a crossbow, killing him. Somewhere in New York City, Calypso, now grown up, learns that Seon murdered her lawyer friend Samantha. That day, Samantha's funeral is held, and Calypso delivers a speech during the service. From a distance, Kraven watches the scene unfold. When the funeral ends, he approaches Calypso, offering his condolences and revealing that they've met before. He tells her that he took care of the man who killed her friend. Reaching into his pocket, he pulls out Calypso's tarot card and thanks her for saving him. She finds it odd that after nearly 20 years, he managed to find her again. Kraven explains that his work involves hunting people and that he now needs her help. Later, back at home, Calypso does some digging into Kraven's identity. She discovers that he's the vigilante hunter, that no one has uncovered who he is or where he operates. Elsewhere, Alexei is playing with his dog. One of his workers informs him that the hunter has eliminated one of his known associates. He adds that everyone on the hunter's list ends up dead, and he is on his list too. Alexei orders his worker to set up a meeting with Crony's former associates. At the meeting, Alexei, also known as Rhino, makes it clear that he's taking over Crony's operation. However, he warns the group that only one of them will get to partner with him. They don't take him seriously and decide to open fire on him. What they didn't account for was the special serum Alexei always carries in his backpack. It accelerates his mutation, and despite being hit by bullets, his rhino-like armor shields him completely. Calmly, he asks again, "Who wants to be my partner?" One of the dealers takes the hint and kills his companions, earning Alexei's approval and a place at his side. That evening, in a mobster's bar, Dmitri is singing. The Rhino's new partner meets with Nikolai. He offers them his protection and support. Without hesitation, the drug dealer agrees to Nikolai's terms. Curious, Nikolai asks why he accepted so quickly, knowing full well that the dealer had already struck a deal with another mobster. The young man tries to act tough and attempts to kill them, but Nikolai and his men easily take him and his allies out. In the end, only Dmitri and Nikolai remain unharmed. Rhino found out that the attempt on Nikolai's life had failed, so he began planning another way to take him down. One of his workers informed him that someone had sent over a video of the hunter. Analyzing the footage, they discovered that the hunter was Nikolai's son. To stop him, they decided to hand this information over to the stranger, a man known for his skills as a bounty hunter. When the stranger arrived at a Russian prison, he was immediately detained. However, by the time he counted to 3, he had immobilized the officer who arrested him, and by the end of the count, the officer was no longer breathing. Meanwhile, Kraven paid a visit to his brother to celebrate his birthday together. Their father, Nikolai, arrived at the gathering, presenting Dmitri with a bottle of fine wine as a gift. After everything, Kraven escorted a drunk Dmitri back to his apartment and put him in bed. When Kraven tried to sleep, he heard his mother's voice and the noise of the surrounding environment. Unable to rest peacefully, he decided to spend the night in a park. He woke up the next morning and returned to his brother's apartment. He found out that his brother had been kidnapped. Despite his best efforts, Kraven's attempts to rescue him were unsuccessful. With no other options, he went to Calypso to ask for her help. He described the little he had seen of the kidnappers. Calypso promised to contact a friend who could track down the culprits. Afterwards, Kraven visited his father and asked if he had any idea who might have kidnapped Dmitri. Nikolai admitted he didn't know, explaining that he had countless enemies who would love to see his empire destroyed. A grim message soon arrived in the form of a box. Inside, Kraven discovered that the criminals had cut off one of Dmitri's fingers. Furious and desperate, he turned to his father, demanding to know how much the kidnappers were asking for the ransom. Nikolai responds that the ransom is 20 million. Kraven pleads with him to just pay it, but Nikolai refuses, arguing that giving in would show weakness. When Dmitri regains consciousness, his captor hands him some antibiotics. Dmitri refuses to take them, but after a brutal beating, he reluctantly gives in. Meanwhile, Calypso meets up with her contact, who provides the key information needed to locate Dmitri. As she departs, the contact reveals he's in business with the stranger, who demands to double the payment. The stranger, however, begins his infamous countdown, and by the time he finishes, the contact is no longer alive. When Kraven tracks down the man responsible for kidnapping Dmitri, he orders him to spill his location. The captor, though, claims it's already too late. Rhino was behind everything, and both of them are as good as dead. A missile detonates, destroying the cathedral structure and burying them both beneath the rubble. Meanwhile, the stranger finds one of Kraven's signature darts at the scene, and he knows it can be found at only one place. Dmitri wakes up and finds himself face to face with Rhino. He insists that he never wanted to hurt Dmitri. His true target was his brother. Rhino then plays a video of the prison and shares the truth. Kraven himself was the hunter. Rhino explains the hunter always had a list, and if your name is on it, he'd find you and take you out. To avoid being hunted, he made the first move and took him down. As the assassins comb through the wreckage for Kraven's body, Rhino takes them out one by one. He then calls Calypso, warning her that she's in danger. He advises her to flee the country and promises to have his pilot friend pick her up. At that moment, he noticed some men entering her workplace, so she escaped them. During lunch, Alexei reflects on his life and his fractured relationship with his father. Determined to become stronger, Rhino tried everything until he crossed paths with a biochemist named Miles Warren. Warren had developed a procedure to amplify strength tenfold, and Rhino didn't hesitate to undergo the treatment. Once the serum was removed, his skin began to transform, turning him into a rhino-like being. Realizing that Dmitri is no longer of use, he tries to eliminate him, but then he's informed that the hunter is close by. When the elevator doors slide open, it is the stranger. Alexei, surprised, asks him why he's so fixated on Kraven. The stranger explains that his mentor was like a brother to him until Kraven took him out. Kraven meets with Calypso. On their way to his place, a leopard suddenly pounces on Kraven. It's his way of playing. When they arrive, Calypso explores the area and discovers Kraven's vast arsenal of weapons. She also learns that attempts were made to replicate the serum, but she informs him that the potion can't be duplicated. The only person who knew how to make it was her grandmother, and she has long since passed away. Before confronting Kraven, the stranger shows Rhino a weapon he designed specifically to take him down. Just then, they made Dmitri call his brother. Rhino grabs the phone and tells his brother that, in exchange for his safety, the three of them need to become partners. Kraven, however, refuses to work with him. To stop him, Alexei sends in his men, but Kraven easily overpowers them, using their weapons against them. During a momentary distraction, the stranger injects Kraven with a dose of his serum, causing him to experience intense hallucinations. As the stranger prepares to finish him off, he tells Rhino's mercenaries that he alone will kill Kraven. But at that very moment, Calypso intervenes and kills the stranger with an arrow. Though Kraven appears to die, but Calypso saves him once again by administering a similar serum. Kraven uses the jag to hold off Rhino. Rhino sheds his suit, transforming back into his monstrous form. The two engage in a deadly battle. At first, Kraven struggles to defeat him, but he ultimately exploits Rhino's weaknesses to take him down. As Rhino lies dying, Kraven demands to know who sent him the prison video. Alexei admits that the one behind all this had been in front of him all along and regrets not stopping him sooner. Furious over everything Rhino has done, Dmitri tries to kill him, but Kraven intervenes, telling him that this isn't who he is. Somewhere in the north of Russia, Nikolai was sleeping until he felt the presence of his son. He then asks why he tried to kill him by sending him with Rhino. Nikolai reveals that he knew that his son was the hunter and was also aware that his son was capable of eliminating Rhino, so he set him up. Kraven rejects him, telling him that years ago he could have killed him, but he didn't because he was his father. At that moment, a bear arrives at the camp and attacks his father, and he does nothing to help him. Years later, Kraven meets with his brother to celebrate his birthday. Dmitri revealed to him that he had met a doctor who had helped him significantly. As he left, Dmitri showed him his new skills. Now he was a chameleon and could change his face into anyone he wanted.